Hello, this is KSQD 90.7, Weekly Cutting Edge. I'm your host, Galina Hale, Professor of Economics at UC Santa Cruz and Faculty Director at the Institute for Social Transformation. My guest today is Maria Elena de la Garza. Maria Elena is currently serving as a Chief Executive Officer of the Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County. With nearly 35 years of nonprofit leadership, she has made a lasting impact on her community, working to expand services, increase community engagement, and foster cultural and fiscal growth. A proud Watsonville native, Maria Elena is deeply committed to the values of equity, humility, and service. I met Maria Elena when we were both preparing for our presentations at the TEDx Santa Cruz event last year. And I'm really glad to have had this opportunity. So welcome, Maria Elena.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. It is such an honor to be with you, Galina. It's an honor to have the platform to talk about the work that we do at Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County. So thank you for the invitation.
Of course. Well, let's start with a TEDx talk. I encourage everybody who is listening to this episode to listen to Maria Elena's TEDx talk. The talk was really inspiring. So how did you decide to become a TEDx speaker, and how did you pick the topic? There's so many things you could talk about. So tell the listeners what your talk was about. It's much better from you than from me. And how did you land on that decision?
Thanks for that question. You know, I got to giggle because those of us who've been through the process understand how rigorous the process is. At least it was for me. I don't know about you, but for me, it was rigorous. And I've been doing speaking for a very, very long time. And this opportunity came to me, and I had a couple people nudge me to say, Marilena, you got to apply for it. You got to try, send in, your application, because it's a selection process, right? You have to apply. I think they had to send in a video. Then if you got chosen, then you got to go in person. Right. To me, it very much felt like an audition, and so, which I didn't expect, I didn't understand the process. And given that, I want to say it was a rigorous process. I'm so glad I did it. But you're right, I could have talked about anything. But the timing of the TEDx opportunity so happened to be on the heels of one of the biggest emergency disasters in our community. It was after the breach of the Pajaro River. It was after the flooding of the Pajaro community. It was probably 8 or 9 months after the devastation. And one of the things that rose to the top for me was there wasn't enough attention given to the women who were part of the response.
Right.
People weren't talking about what was happening. People weren't talking about the women, and specifically the Latinas, that were in the fight and in the response every day since the flood. And so that prompted me to think about the women leaders in the community. It prompted me to think about the strong Latina women in my life. And from those thoughts and that reflection was born this conversation about what it is to be a chingona, right? What it is to be a badass woman in this community, and how important the role and the voice of women is in being responsive to what is happening in the community and helping tie and thread together the support network for the community. And that's what gave me the inspiration to tell the story of my mom, who was this incredible, strong woman who taught me about the importance of showing up every day, the importance of giving your granito de arena, your grain of sand, whatever that is, Galina, right? Whatever it is,
Right. Right.
in whatever sphere of influence that we have, that grain of sand, and contributing that grain of sand with love and compassion and dedication and in the name of service, right? And so that TEDx talk was inspired by the Latinas in my life, from my past, from the women in history, and and most recently from the women like Sister Rosa Dolores in Pájaro, like
Right.
Erica Padilla Chavez from the food bank, like Rebecca Garcia, an educator from Watsonville community, like so many women, so many Latinas who continue to show up every day to do the work and to be of service. So that's what TEDx gave me the platform to share the importance of that history, the importance of that foundation for me and my leadership now, at CAB.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I remember you were one of the first speakers. You were the first. I was in the audience and I've heard your talk before, but being in the audience with all the lights and your visuals, I thought it was a great, great opener. I was going to ask you about the process, and you mentioned that. I think it was the same for everybody. I had to send a video. I was in front of this 10 people audition thing. They were all giving me suggestions. And then what I really appreciated was having a coach.
Yes.
I imagine you also had a coach. How
Yeah.
was that? For me, was what was new, because I also do a lot of public speaking, but usually nobody edits what I'm going to
Correct.
say, as opposed to TEDx. They do improve your script that you then have to memorize, but then it's not 100% yours. How was that for you, especially with a personal story?
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good question. And I think there was some tension for me. There was some tension for me in one, I appreciate the coaching and the help and the edits and the professional part of the TEDx support, right? I couldn't have done it without them. I couldn't have done it without Jenny at the Community Foundation and my coach and all the people who came together to support us being successful, right? We know it took a lot. It's a production. But there is a natural tension in that process or that evolution of the first speech to the final draft, because it's different, right? It's different. And my natural inclination in the beginning in my first draft was to shine the light on these amazing chingonas in my life, right? And in the community. And I remembered the coach and the editors saying, talk more about you and your history. Talk more about why this is important to you. And I didn't want to shine a light on me because I didn't want it to be about me. And little by little, I understood and I took the suggestions and had a conversation about this has to be my voice. It has to be my voice, or I don't want to do it. It doesn't feel right.
Right.
And we got to the space and with enough practice, because I think the other hard part, I don't know about for you, Elena, but for me, like the memorization of the words, right? You have to memorize it word for word.
Right.
And girl, I just turned 60 and memorizing is not easy once you hit a certain threshold, right? And so it was a struggle for me. And I remember I practiced every night for 3 or 4 weeks, every night at home.
Wow.
Hour.
That showed. That showed.
It was a lot. And I remember my husband being in the background, like he would go in the bedroom because he knew it was time for me to go. And I remember him coming out one day and he said, and this was probably about 2 weeks in, a week and a half in, he said to me, now it sounds like you.
Oh, that's nice.
Now
You
it's
made it your own.
Yes. But it took practice and hours for me. I don't know. How was it for you? Did you practice a lot?
Oh, yeah. So for me, I thought, oh, I can memorize. These are my own thoughts. And then my students in the class, in the master's level class I teach on financial institutions and markets, they're like, oh, we tried to get tickets, but it was sold out. So they were like, oh, we really wanted to go. And I'm like, well, how about I rehearse? And it was like just the same week, like a few days before the show time.
Wow.
And I said, why don't I just deliver it to you as a practice? And I couldn't. I got nervous. Like, these are my students. I've been working with them the whole quarter. They're like friends. They're fantastic. And I got nervous and I couldn't remember a thing.
Oh my God.
And I ended up reading it. And so what I did then, I recorded it on my phone.
Oh.
And I started listening to it every time I was driving anywhere. And that's how I was able to memorize it, by just listening.
Oh my gosh. It's such a wonderful thing to have that shared experience with you and everyone else. I hadn't met most of the people that were part of the TEDx series. And it's such an honor to be with such experts,
Yeah.
to be in the company of people like you and so many others. What an honor and what an incredible experience. I encourage your listeners, if you've got that inkling in you, if you got a little spark there, go for it. It will be a challenging experience. It will be a difficult experience. It will be an exhausting experience, and it is completely worthwhile, absolutely worthwhile to be able to get through it and be successful and have that part of our foundation, right?
Yeah, and then in the end, you have this very professional video of you talking about things that you do want to share with the world. And so to me, that opportunity to have a platform and a whole team of people making my message the most clear,
Yes.
effective it can be. And then the whole production thing and like the whole event, I felt like, wow, I'm a rock star.
Absolutely.
That was great.
And I'll tell you that it elevated our work, right?
Yes,
While
I
it's
think
a
so.
personal conversation, it's a personal experience. The platform that it gave me to the work that I do at Community Action Board, to the work that I do in the community, it absolutely elevated the work that we do. So what a wonderful, wonderful outcome, right?
Exactly. Well, so you're stealing all my segues. Let's talk a little bit about your day job then. So
Yeah,
tell the listeners, what is the Community Action Board? What do you do? And why do you do it?
yeah. Thank you. The Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County, affectionately called CAB, has been around for 60 years. We are celebrating 60 years of service this year. And we are a nonprofit agency serving Santa Cruz County, providing programs and support to the low-income community of this county. Our mission is simple. It's very simple in words. Our mission is to eliminate poverty, period.
Mm.
And our work is connected to a statewide network of community action agencies and a national network of community action agencies. Around the nation, there's about 1,000 of us. In the state of California, there's about 58 of us. We are in essentially every county across the nation. We were born in 1965 from the federal government when President Johnson declared a war on poverty. The United States was thinking about, on those part of the civil rights movement, how can we do better to help support low-income communities in the nation? And so community action was born. And the beauty of this work, the beauty of our foundation is that there's two things that make us a community action agency by federal mandate. Number one, we have what is called a tripartite board. We have your community action, our Santa Cruz County community action has 15 board members. 5 of them are low-income community members with lived experience. 5 of them are elected officials. 5 of them are industry folks. And so in our industry cohort, we have, for example, a healthcare seat. We have a farm worker seat. We have an indigenous language speaker seat. We have a county at large seat. And we have a finance institution seat that is held by the Santa Cruz County Community Credit Union. We have a criminal justice, youth justice seat. And those 3 components, the low income voices, sitting next to the elected official voices, sitting next to the industry folks' voices, make up our governance. And I'll tell you that our county is so incredibly blessed to have the people on our board leading this agency at this time. That's a powerful board. When people who have experience with poverty, with knowing what it is to be low income in this community, right? When knowing what it is to not be able to pay your rent, knowing what it is to be making low wages, knowing what it is to be a single mom, right? Sitting next to systems people, our elected officials who are making decisions every day that impact our community, that's powerful. When elected officials are listening to the issues that our low income representatives are talking about, that's powerful because it has to impact how they make decisions. It has to impact the systems that they represent, and that's done by intention. And likewise, those voices impacting the industry that is important in our community, right? Imagine we have Beth Carr, who is the CEO of Santa Cruz Community Credit Union, listening to what the needs of the community are at that board, and her then going back to the credit union and talking about what is needed and what are the gaps in services, and then creating programs to respond to those gaps. That's what community action is about. And that's the power of the movement, because it's a movement, Galina. And it's weird to say that our work and our existence is not just about services, but it's also about creating movement to create systems change. Because in that makeup of our board, we stand between grassroots voices, right? Like those people I mentioned, and for example, the Pajaro flood victims, and systems created to be responsive to those people. And our job, my job, our job is to balance that and to ensure that there is communication, that there's understanding, and that we're elevating the experience, right? We're elevating what it feels like, what it means to be low income in Santa Cruz County right now. So that's number one, is the tripartite board. That makes us different than any other nonprofit. And the second thing is every 2 years we go out and we survey the community to learn and to create the new snapshot on what poverty looks like. And that process is called the Community Action Plan process. And our board just approved the plan. It went up to our state partners. It gets rolled up to the federal partners. And so Santa Cruz County has a voice in sharing what poverty looks like in our community. And we know what it looks like in our community, right? Our board a few years back wanted to make sure that we included the voices of people who do not normally have access to these systems, to these kinds of assessments. And so we started off by one, educating ourselves, understanding what the importance of cultural humility in the process of creating an assessment. And then setting forth in partnership, on our board is Eva Bertram from UCSC. She's a faculty member. She's been on our board for over 13 years, and she's very involved in the creating of the Community Action Plan process. What was known before as the Blum Center now is, I think it's Ceja Center, and Heather Bullock from that center, Steve McKay from that center, were all part of the foundation of shifting our process to ensure we had voices that never had been heard before. And as a result, I can tell you that this year, and we'll be launching some educational opportunities for people to learn more about our Community Action Plan process. But for example, one of the things that we learned, that 16% of our community reported earning less than $5,000 of annual income last year.
Yeah.
$5,000 annual income, right?
Right. No, that's way below the poverty line, right? So that should not be happening in this country.
Exactly. And for us, it meant talking to our ag workers. It meant talking to our service workers. It meant talking to people who spoke indigenous languages and ones that go out and pick our strawberries every day, right? Having that trust with community voices to tell us that information, right? Because that's not going to get rolled into the census.
Right.
People don't respond to the American survey, right?
Right, of course not.
But because of the relationship and the 60 years of service that our agency has had, we were able to capture that kind of information, which I think is incredibly important for our systems, for our university, for our government partners to hear. That's the reality. When 16% of our folks are earning $5,000 of annual income, what does that mean? How do they pay the rent. We're in the most expensive place in the nation. How do people do that, right? And so we're hoping to elevate the story, and we're hoping to spark conversations, and we're hoping to ask questions and have people ask questions about how do we ensure that when we're making our decisions, when we're planning our curriculum for classes, how do we make sure that this gets included?
Yeah, and I owe you a white paper on the project that we've discussed a year ago on the barriers to rebuilding after a disaster.
Cool.
But I also owe you thanks because it's a conversation with you and your staff that made us actually change our approach instead of trying to get the focus groups and bring in people who have already who are super busy and have been traumatized by those events and making them talk about that again. Instead, we talked to 9 different community organizations all across the state of California, and it was extremely illuminating, and we would not have gone that far without your suggestions and your help. So for our listeners, that expertise that Community Action Board has through that community action planning process and engagement and trust with the community, that has a broader impact on more people understanding what's going on.
And I got to say, thank you for pivoting. Thank you for pivoting. And I'm so appreciative of you and the university to be able to do that kind of pivot and understand what we were facing at that time, right? Thank you for that. I
Of
look
course.
forward to learning more.
All right. Well, so maybe since I kind of mentioned the relationship we have,
Yes.
started with TEDx, but my understanding is you work a lot more with university. Can you talk a little bit how that partnership works for you?
Yeah, in the last 5 years, our relationship with the university has really strengthened. I am so appreciative of the professors and the center folks and the administration for reaching out to CAB, for knowing who we are and understanding our role in the community, and knowing that we must work together, right? And knowing that the magic sauce of success and of change is our ability to work together, right? In ways that maybe we hadn't before. And, with Eva Bertram being on our board, with our relationship with Sakina and Enrico from the Center for Reimagining Leadership, with our relationship with Steve McKay, and with Audrey's Blake, with the chancellor, I mean, on all levels of the agency of the university, there has been intentional strides to build relationship with community action. And it shows. It shows in the work that we're able to do together, the work that we've done in Pajaro together, the work that we've embarked on in the area of climate justice. We wouldn't be here as an agency. We have shared a staff person, a doctorate fellow that is housed at CAB and works at the university, and together is this liaison between our agency and the university. It has been extremely important, one, to take the time to nurture la confianza, to nurture the trust between the university and our agency. And hiccups happen along the way, like any relationship, right?
Right.
And our ability to come back together, to have real conversations, and to have the platform to share the work that we do, and for you to bring, for the university to bring your expertise, your research-based work, has really strengthened, I think, the agency, and has strengthened the university. So much so, we're having a fundraiser. I'll tell you all about relationship. All about relationship. One day I invited Sakina and Enrico from the Center for Reimagining Leadership to my 60th birthday celebration. It was a joint launch of CAB 60th, and I turned 60, and we had a little party. And I invited them, and they came, and they brought their interns. And it was so special for me that they took the time and drove from North County to South County and joined the celebration. It meant a lot to me, their investment in me and CAB, that I had confianza. I had the nerve to ask Enrico, I need to ask you for a favor. Can I talk to you about something? And he said, of course, Maria Elena. And we had a conversation later, maybe a week later, and I said, would you help us do a fundraiser for Davenport, for our services in Davenport?
Mm.
I imagined in my head, people sitting around a campfire. I imagined us doing s'mores, and I imagined him and his team with telescopes looking at the stars and hearing a lecture on the universe and gold and all the things that make up who Enrico is and his students. And I thought, wouldn't that be such a loving and informative and exciting event? And he listened and he was very quiet and he said, Maria Elena, he said, yes, and let me think about it. And before you knew it, Sakina and Enrico had this incredible plan. And they're hosting a fundraiser for CAB at the university on September 20th about climate justice and looking at the stars and bringing a panel of experts talking about what is the impact of climate on the communities that we serve? And he's bringing the telescopes and we get to look at the stars. And what an amazing collaboration that I'm incredibly grateful for, that there's no way that we could have done without the university. There's no way, Galina, we could do without Enrico and Sakina's vision, right? And I'm thrilled about it. I hope there's still tickets available. I'm not sure where we are with that, but I invite our university partners to check it out and come and support the event, because all the proceeds go to support our programs in Davenport. We're the only social service agency providing services in the Davenport community. There's about 250 farm worker families that work in the ranchos around the community of Davenport. And we want to uplift that community. We want to support that community. And this amazing event that's happening on September 20th is a wonderful strategy. And it's a heart-to-heart connection. It's a heart-to-heart connection, and we're really grateful about it.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I hope there are some tickets left for those who are listening and might be interested. Well, we're basically at time. Thank you so much, Maria Elena, for your time and for all the work that you're doing and for being such an inspiring person. It's always amazing to talk to you.
Thank you, Galina. I also want to invite your listeners to October 18th. We're celebrating our 60th at the formerly known the Coconut Grove. Tickets are still available. Look on our website. It's about, we need support more than ever. In this landscape, our services, the people that we serve, are being targeted by our political landscape. And now's the time to support our work and support the communities that we are in service to. Thank you for this opportunity, Galina. Muchas gracias. I appreciate all that you do.
Muchas gracias. This has been Cutting Edge at KSQD 90.7. I'm Galina Hale. Goodbye.